Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. Yes, we're back again with more Liverpool transfer news. It's me, it's Dan Clubb, and we're here this time to talk about Hugo Ekitike. This game of brinksmanship, this game of transfer chicken, if you will, seems to be dragging on. It's been 24, 48 hours now, Dan. It's a real summer saga, I think, isn't it, between Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike, and the threesome that is Liverpool Football Club. Let's make it a foursome and add Newcastle United into it as well. What's going to happen here, mate?
Oh, mate, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Really. I don't know who's playing what game, really. I don't know whether Liverpool are now calling Newcastle's bluff. I don't know whether Newcastle have got all the cards and they're in control of the situation. It's my gut and sort of history tells you that Liverpool are well, calm, and everything's fine with all of this, whereas Newcastle might be just like a duck serenely going on the surface and the fucking legs are going. It feels like that to me a little bit because it's Liverpool, Premier League champions, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, best in the business. Like, we know we've done this before. This is, this 4D chess lark. We're perfectly okay with all this. And now you got David Ornstein coming out again, 24 hours on from coming out and saying Liverpool have made the first Isak play. Now we're making our Ekitike play. It suggests to me, and again, my confidence in those in the building's ability at Liverpool suggests to me that we're okay. But how it all ends and how this 24-hour-long saga develops and culminates, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, let's start with David Ornstein's tweet then. We're obviously going to get into the comments, give you some of our thoughts and everything else as we go along. But Liverpool contact Eintracht Frankfurt over a possible move for Hugo Ekitike. LFC working on 23-year-old forward, having also approached Newcastle for Alexander Isak. Newcastle want to keep the 25-year-old, but the Ekitike interest is ongoing. There's obviously an official report on The Athletic. I'll be able to talk to you a little bit about that as we move on. So I'll start with that, actually. Obviously, we can't show this one. But Liverpool have made contact with Eintracht Frankfurt. They've now received an approach from Liverpool as the Premier League champions work to bolster their attack with a new striker. It comes amid Liverpool's pursuit of Newcastle forward Alexander Isak. The club have communicated their interest about doing a deal in the region of 120 mil for the 25-year-old Sweden international. Newcastle also looking to land Ekitike this summer for the third time. They've not landed him once yet, but we are where we are. Let's talk this game of chicken first, Dan, because I'll tell you where I'm at. If Liverpool are bidding for Ekitike, I just wonder whether that means that Liverpool took Newcastle's no as a hard no.
Yeah, quite possibly. That is one conclusion that's relatively straightforward, and there's quite a nice line to that, I would say, because, again, since this 15-20 minutes has passed and we've obviously got wind of the fact Liverpool have reached out to Frankfurt about Ekitike now. Yeah, whether it's that or whether we are convinced Newcastle are smitten on Ekitike, and
which third bid would suggest they
are.
are.
It would do, yeah. And maybe, listen, if Newcastle aren't, resigned to the prospect or the possibility of Isak leaving now, are they just kicking the can down the road, maybe? And Ekitike is their guy in terms of the replacement. So therefore, us going for Ekitike actually panics them even further, you know what I mean? So your hunch is probably my hunch as well, in terms of we've gone to Newcastle, they've absolutely steadfast, not happening, forget about it, move on, guys. So we've then moved on, essentially. That would be my guess as well. However, a little bit of me.
That's the word I was hoping for.
Just thinks, well, if Newcastle have sort of assessed it now, they've had conversations with Isak's representatives and what have you, and they've got sort of his words that he's not going to kick up a huge fuss and force a move out right now. But at some point, he's not going to sign a new deal, and he will leave on. He will move on. I wonder whether they've just gone, cut our nose off to spite our face a little bit, and just gone, well, we're best off selling now when there's 120 million on the table, and we've got our replacement lined up. Whereas if they don't do that, Isak 12 months down the line goes elsewhere. Ekitike is a Liverpool player. Newcastle a little bit stuck at that point, and who is the alternative then? You know what I mean? So if they are absolutely dead set on Ekitike being the next Isak, for example, and being absolutely the viable option, which would make a lot of sense to me, I wonder whether we've forced their hand a little bit into actually coming back to the table and saying, do you know what, you mentioned Isak, there's something in that.
It exists a possibility, doesn't it, which is what you're saying here, that Newcastle are looking at that going 120 mil, if we can get them up to 130, 140 million pounds, we're comfortable with spending just over half that on Ekitike and banking the rest and moving forwards and forgetting about this saga. The other thing at play here, which I'm riffing off your last point, is could Liverpool be making a statement to Alexander Isak? And that, because I think that's the interesting part for me. Because I'm looking at this going, and I've said this all summer long, and I know you've said the same to me in the office upstairs and on shows. Liverpool need Alexander Isak, I think, to hand the transfer request in. He doesn't seem the type of player to be able to do that. But if a move to Liverpool is all of a sudden off the table, is that enough for him to go, shit, Liverpool are moving on? They're moving on from Alexander Isak, and they're going to Hugo Ekitike. I want to ultimately end up at Liverpool. I don't want to miss my opportunity to end up at the Premier League champions. Are they forcing Isak's hand?
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah. And that is very, very viable to me. The only thing I'd say about that is Liverpool want what they want, and that is Alexander Isak, let's be honest. I'm not entirely sure we'd be overly comfortable with using Hugo Ekitike as a bit of a pawn in that circumstance. That's what that would feel like, wouldn't it?
Pawn him all you want. If we end up with Isak, pawn him all you want.
Ultimately, yeah, that would be very, that would be quite cutthroat.
4D chess.
It is, but it would be quite brutal from a Liverpool point of view, really. But ultimately, if your end goal is Alexander Isak, and this is the only way, or certainly one of the most likely ways of getting to that, then ultimately, why not? Because I don't know him.
Don't rate the player, rate the game.
A little bit. And listen, loads of clubs have done this sort of thing down the years. So Alex Ferguson made a habit of it, especially when it comes to sort of the best in the business in the Premier League. He was absolutely the master of it. That's why they remained so successful for so long. So Liverpool moving in them sort of ways, and Liverpool moving in the ways they have done this summer, I'm all for. That in particular, though, registering interest in another player entirely just to get a completely separate guy, that would be another step beyond what we've seen previously.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love this comment from Ollie Sack. He says, maybe we're signing both. I think we've all said over the last couple of days that you can't have them both in the same team at the same time, Newcastle. And I wonder whether that would be the same for us. It is just so fascinating, isn't it? Because let's talk about Ekitike, the player, obviously. You know, we've been speaking about him. I've done deep dives on him. You've done shows with people around Hugo Ekitike. For what it's worth, I actually think he'd be a really good fit for Liverpool. He's really tall. He's really fast. He's really technical. I actually prefer his build-up and bringing players in than the striking side of things right now. I can imagine with runners from midfield, Ekitike playing those little balls around the corner to his mates running in is actually where we might see the best of it. Me and Josh talk on the deep dive quite often about Salah cutting in and hitting Gakpo at the back stick. We see Gakpo or Diaz cut in and hit Salah at the back stick. And Ekitike just gives us another option there, especially if you've got crosses like Kerkez and something like that. Having that tall player like Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak's exactly the same, by the way, with that finishing ability from his head, could be really a viable option for us. And I think the reason that Liverpool, in a normal summer, if they didn't think that Isak was available, I think Liverpool feel 100% confident that Ekitike can be the guy. I just think they're just making a stretch this time around because they think there's a chance.
And why not? Also, again, I come back to it, Liverpool in this current position, whether it be in terms of the books, in terms of the finances, the accounts, the PSR flexibility, and the headroom that we've clearly got, and the fact we are sat here as Premier League champions with this seeming war chest ready to go. Why not make big boy moves and go after the absolute best of the best, the cream of the crop, and that is Alexander Isak, you know? So I'm all for that, but ultimately, if that proves non-viable and not possible, then you've got to move on. And it's interesting, the Ekitike stuff, because in the same way, you can't sit here and say that Ekitike is a feasible replacement for Alexander Isak and therefore not want him at Liverpool. You know, because I think he's 2 years younger, I think I'm right in saying. He's clearly not, not as proven. Obviously, he had a difficult time at PSG, it's fair to say, but he's gone away, obviously, to Frankfurt and rebuilt his career and sort of got going again, which I think holds a lot of credence in that. I quite like that. Liverpool like that. Liverpool like failures on CVs, it feels like, because it does show some sort of character and some sort of metal that you need.
Not being Liverpool, being the failure.
Granted, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that ideally, yeah. Granted. But yeah, I think you're right in terms of the style and the profile again, because I do see similarities in the two. So if we love, which clearly we do, Alexander Isak, and that's not on, who's the other one? And it's him. And I think you made the point this week that all of a sudden, if Newcastle were going after both, you're taking probably Liverpool's first choice, two choices, striker targets off the board. And we couldn't let that happen. Therefore, we've gone after both of them. And whichever one we end up with, I think we'll be quite comfortable with. Again, Isak's a dream. But if we can't do that, Ekitike is the next one. And you can see why. The way they play, stylistically, the profile, very, very similar. You mentioned how he facilitates. I think as an all-round footballer, I'm a big, big fan. Because there's goal scorers out there. There's out-and-out goal scorers. I'm not sure Ekitike is that. But just in terms of the way he plays football, the way he stretches teams, the way he operates with those around him, I think there's a lot to like there. But also, if you look at his numbers, like last season, 22 goals, 12 assists in 48 appearances or comps, like, it's impressive. It's really, really impressive. You know what I mean?
And when he lost his mate, obviously goes to City
100%.
halfway through the season, still manages.
And that's not in a side that's all-conquering. It's not even in the champions previously by Leverkusen. It's not in the champions that were by Munich. It's in the next ones. It's in Frankfurt, obviously. I think they finished third in the Bundesliga, which is good, but it's not in the cream of the crop, the elite. So to do those numbers in that side, I think is quite impressive.
No, absolutely. Agreed. So, obviously, we'll get into some of the comments in a moment. I just want to ask where you actually think this is headed right now.
Yeah, listen.
All right, and I say think, and I mean... Give me a guess.
No, it is a guess. My head says we'll sign Hugo Ekitike. My heart dreams of Alexander Isak still. But I do think...
Sings of him.
Yeah, if you had to gun to me head, you're going to sign this one, what's going to happen? I would say that Newcastle keep Isak and we end up... And it sounds really negative. And you said before we went live, like... Is there a disappointment to it, or is it underwhelming? I'm not sure. That sounds really disrespectful to Hugo Ekitike. But when you've been teased with a little bit of Isak, there can't help but be a little bit like, oh, we haven't got him. You know what I mean? We've gone for the other one. But I honestly believe, sort of nailing colours to the mast, I believe Liverpool with Hugo Ekitike is somewhat of a match made in heaven. I think it makes so much sense. Liverpool... In previous summers, going to get Ekitike would have been absolutely the transfer. You know what I mean? You said it a moment ago. The fact that Isak was there and ever so slightly ajar in terms of the door being for him available, that entices and excites. But this Ekitike deal is so Liverpool. From the Bundesliga, 23, very, very good. Trajectory going up, seemingly about to go to a new height altogether. That's Liverpool in a nutshell. That's what we do.
But
this is the sort of deal.
I agree, and I'll play devil's advocate here. Is that what this Liverpool summer transfer window is about?
It hasn't been, no, and that's what is the caveat to all of what I've just said there. But there's nothing wrong, in my opinion. We've signed... The win now has been sort of the mantra, hasn't it, when it comes to...
Feels like it.
You know what I mean? When it comes to people we've been linked with, and indeed the transfers we've done so far, it is, we're primed, we're ready to go. We are the champions of England right now. We've got Salah for 2 more years, we've got Van Dijk for 2 more years. Win now, win now, win now. And I get that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But if you can't do the best of the best, i.e. Isak, there's not much wrong, in my opinion, in reverting to type a little bit and saying, well, that's not possible. We're not just going to stick with our lot, which would look like Darwin Núñez right now.
It's still an improvement,
of course
I
it is.
think, isn't
it's
it?
still an improvement, and it's still the tried and tested when it comes to us. Because I think Ekitike today moves the dial when it comes to what Liverpool are capable of, and tomorrow he definitely does, and years after, he does and he does and he does.
Okay. Sound of Silence says, Isak is injury-prone, man. Ekitike is very overrated.
The injury-prone stuff...
Not going to be happy, whatever, is he?
Clearly not. I'd like to know who he wants us to sign.
I mean, it's Alvarez. Clearly, it's Alvarez.
Yeah, he is the other one, but he just feels untouchable, doesn't he?
Well, there's rumours he just wants to stay 1 more year.
We need
One
something
more
now.
year.
We need something now.
We do, but 1 more year and then get him. Oh, I like the idea of that as well, to be fair. Has to be Isak, says Alex C. Kupia says, I want Isak. A Waffler on YouTube says, Richard Hughes is amazing. He's having an all-time summer so far. And Charlotte Weir just says, I don't want Ekitike.
How the tables turn on Richard Hughes, by the way.
I know.
Nobody was having him last summer.
Did nothing.
Nobody was having him at all.
Couldn't even get a contract signed by 3 players.
There's a Bimendi saga. That was a saga. All of a sudden, we've got Van Dijk and Salah nailed down for 2 more years, and we're doing business left, right, and centre.
Then the other thing that I do find interesting with Ekitike is, and Isak actually, and listen, as much as the next person, I want Alexander Isak at Liverpool, but the Mo Salah, Alexander Isak sort of play for goals. I don't feel you get that with Ekitike. Now, I will say as well that over the course of the last few years, not last season, but a couple of years before, since we bought Darwin Núñez, under Jurgen Klopp, Mo Salah did go to more of a provider role, such that you could see him trying to link up with Darwin Núñez. And I think that could possibly be the case if we were to sign Alexander Isak. You'll still ship him with 20-odd goals, but I do think he'd look more for Isak to be the tip of the spear slot and Mo Salah in that regard. But Ekitike, I think, gives you, I think you've got the space for him to grow into that number one striker role and be the man who scores the goals for the next 2 years while you've got Mo. And I find that an interesting dynamic as well that could actually benefit Liverpool in the short term and long term.
100% agree. And I think the Salah-Darwin link-up was a fascinating watch. And it was actually, when we look back on Darwin's Liverpool time, there'll be some glorious moments along the way, sort of interspersed with... I actually think those two linked up brilliantly. And that was one of the highlights of his time at the football club, actually, just how well they seem to work together in sort of the same wavelength more often than not as well. But yeah, I think you're right in Ekitike. I think there's enough of a footballer there to bring the best out of those around him whilst also contributing himself. I think he runs the channels really well from what I see. I think his game intelligence and how to be that striker is really, really impressive. The fact he's played in a two alongside Marmoush will actually aid that too, I think, in terms of like how to link up and how to operate with players. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like, but you're right, the Salah and anyone dynamic is always a fascinating one because it often feels like whoever the nine's been, it has been a case of just because of his genius, really. You're there just to make room or sort of avert attention away from Mo Salah. And I think Ekitike will do that and provide that. Isak probably on another level again because, let's be honest, if you bring in Isak, the weight of goals immediately gets spread. Because Isak is just a goal machine, as is Mo Salah. So all of a sudden, I don't quite know how that looked. But with Ekitike, I think you're right. I don't think we'll see the same output in terms of volume and numbers. But how he operates with Salah, I think will work quite nicely.
Yeah, I think the other thing to say about Isak is he likes to sort of shift over to that left-hand side as well, which does free up space for Salah. But I do definitely see it as more of a 50-50 split between them.
Yeah, Vert operates over there as well. So all of a sudden, I mean, overloading one side and Salah's got freedom, granted.
But it's like that, the best Manchester City sides that we've come up against, De Bruyne's always over there with one of their top players overloading you, isn't he?
Yeah.
In previous seasons and stuff. So it's just so interesting, isn't it? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section right now. Would you want Hugo Ekitike? It does seem to be fairly split, to be fair, in the comments from what I'm seeing so far. Some people are having it, some people aren't. Some people, I think, are just absolutely all in on Alexander Isak, and that's completely and utterly fair as well. I actually feel pretty good about both of them, although in a weird way I would kind of feel a little bit underwhelmed about Hugo Ekitike. But as you said before, if Isak wasn't on the table and Liverpool go and sign Hugo Ekitike this summer, I am like a pig in shit.
When the contract rumours, Newcastle Isak contract rumours first began a month ago, let's just call it that for argument's sake, and they've got a contract over the line, signed, sealed, delivered, 5 more years of Alexander Isak, highest earner of all time at Newcastle, I don't think any one of us would be disappointed by Hugo Ekitike. Genuinely. If you look at the striker market right now, obviously Gyökeres looks like he's off to Arsenal. João Pedro's gone to Chelsea. There are other movers and other potentials out there. We've already kind of dismissed the Alvarez one because it doesn't seem a possibility even remotely right now. For me, and this is only a personal opinion, obviously, I think Hugo Ekitike, and I probably said this previously, was probably top of the remaining list. I think he might have been ahead of João Pedro and Victor Gyökeres. I'm not sold on Gyökeres whatsoever. I really like Pedro, obviously Premier League experience as well, which counts in his favour. But I am a big admirer of what I've seen of Ekitike. Liverpool, again, have got a well-proven and well-trodden track record of signing players in the Bundesliga. It's been a happy hunting ground for us in recent years, it's fair to say. Therefore, the age profile fits. The price might be a little bit north of what we'd like to pay. The numbers are there. The ability's there. It's clear for all to see. So I think this whole transfer, remove Alexander Isak from the equation, every element of this transfer makes sense to me. Really does. The fact Liverpool need a 9, I think that's very desperate for 9 in certain aspects when it comes to, obviously, it looks like Darwin's on his way out the door. So, yeah, I'm a big admirer of it. And I think, again, I come back to my earlier point, a few years ago, we were all hailing Liverpool for this sort of deal. This was exactly the sort of deal we do. The Vert is the exception to the rule. The Isak would be the exception to the rule. That's not Liverpool in any way, shape or form. This is much more in our wheelhouse.
How would you feel if Liverpool was to sign Ekitike and Jean-Philippe Mateta?
Yeah, comfortable with it, I'll be honest. I think, because then, in a way, sort of 2 birds, 1 stone in terms of you paid a similar sort of amount of money that you would have for Isak. You're probably getting more in the way of proven out-and-out Premier League goal scorer, because that's what Mateta's sort of made himself, obviously at a lower level in terms of numbers, but let's be honest, with all due respect to Crystal Palace, in a lesser side, a side that creates less chances for him. So all of a sudden you're getting your project player, for want of a better expression, in Ekitike. You're getting somebody you can develop and mould and grow into whatever we want him to be at Liverpool, which, for what it's worth, I think is something really quite exceptional, whilst also getting a guy who can come in, plug and play day one and score goals. And they're very different stylistically as well. So I think there's something in that.
The one thing that I probably struggle with is, and not everybody will agree with this, and that's absolutely fine. Opinions are like arseholes, as we know. Everyone's got one. I struggle with the idea of us essentially signing Ekitike and full stop taking us out of the Isak market forever.
Really?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I do, because I'm like...
This would do that, by the way. You are right.
I think it would.
Yeah, I agree.
I do, like, there is a world where I might actually wait a year, and Liverpool need a striker, don't get me wrong, but I'm not convinced that Liverpool can't win the league without one.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. However, the Champions League, FA Cup,
yes,
Cup.
If you want to win the Champions League and the Premier League,
yeah,
I couldn't say hand on heart that Liverpool can win the Champions League.
No, we're not the favourites for that.
Yeah.
So we're not the favourites for that right now. As good as we are, you know what I mean. And also, again, come back to something I said earlier, you're 12 months closer to the end of Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah, in theory, as Liverpool players, certainly at their peak, because at some point, both of them are going to start to, get worse. Doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon, don't get me wrong, but that will come. Absolutely will come. So I'm not as okay with that as you are. I get Liverpool's policy has been to wait. If you can't get the one you want, just wait. I don't think we're quite in that world now, because we're absolutely certain Darwin Núñez isn't the answer. I think that's fair to say.
Well, I also think that Liverpool's policy was also informed by Jurgen. I think Jurgen was happy to wait, and I'm not sure Slot is.
No, it's a fair point. I think he is more of that win now. And
I think he'd just rather just go, he's not right, get rid of him, get somebody else and we'll spin the wheel and try again.
We saw that not in transfer window parlance, didn't we, in terms of like his squad rotation or lack thereof.
You're in, and if you're out, you're out.
Well, we saw it game 1 against Ipswich. Javel Quansah. It's a well-trodden sentence, this now, but this is what happened, because he plays 45 minutes and he goes, not good enough, didn't see for weeks. You know what I mean? So we're now seeing that in the transfer world as well. He's going, I want him, let's go and get him, because he's better than what we've got. Done. Simply dead, that brutal, that cutthroat, that this is what Liverpool need. And I think...
You know what it's like? It's just always forwards.
Yeah. And
there's nothing wrong with that either, is there?
I don't think Arne Slot was happy, that's not the right term, but comfortable with the underdog tag that we'd got. And we were brilliant at it. Jurgen Klopp is we've said it a million times in loads of different ways. Jurgen Klopp was an exceptional underdog manager at Liverpool Football Club. He's definitely manager at Liverpool Football Club, but as the underdog, he thrived in that. Arne Slot's not interested in that. Yeah. He wants to be winners. He wants to be the best of the best. We're better than everyone else. Let's start acting like it. And these transfer moves, including Ekitike in a weird way, because I think old Liverpool, to your point, would wait. But I think this Liverpool's like, what are we waiting for? We need something now. Let's do it now.
Keep improving, keep improving, keep improving. Red Scout TV says Ekitike, Rodrigo, Isak, Rodrigo, it's all good. Let's talk a little bit about Rodrigo. I've actually not spoken to you about it. Do you think Liverpool could do Rodrigo and Ekitike? And do you think Liverpool could do Isak and Rodrigo?
Isak and Rodrigo is
a little way out the reach.
No, actually, no. I was going to say that because, again, normal conventional wisdom would suggest that it is. But when you listen to the likes of Dave Powell et al. Saying we've got the PSR room and the funds and the finances to do it, then why not? I guess I would still, but obviously, Ekitike and Rodrigo is easier, isn't it? I think it's plausible because essentially, if you did Diaz out, Núñez out, Ekitike, Rodrigo in, money-wise, you're probably spending £60 million on that, I would say. And squad-wise, you're just going 2 in, 2 out. So it's absolutely doable.
I saw a great tweet from somebody, I don't know who it was, but it says, the thing is, if Liverpool sign Rodrigo, you don't need to worry about him running his contract down and going to Real Madrid.
That's a fair point.
Fucking do it, lads.
Good point, well
Just
made.
do it.
Yeah,
because we're in there with Ibu Konate stuff now as well. Dan, thank you very much. And Lee, your comment is on the screen, my friend. But thank you so much. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Thank you to everyone subscribing to Redmen Plus and obviously our Redmen YouTube channel as well. If you haven't, go and check out the new website, redmenplus.com. It does have absolutely everything that we produce going on that website. It's not just for paid subscribers either. You can register on the site. You get all the Redmen 2 clips. You get all the Redmen YouTube clips. You get all of the podcasts on there. So check that out on redmenplus.com. You don't need to pay to use it. Thank you very much and we'll see you next time. Ta-ra.